Welcome to the Plus or Minus Podcast. My name is Lachlan Jones. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to dive right in because I was driving down the street. I'm thinking about buying a house, so I had to go talk to, I set up an appointment for Friday to talk to a mortgage lender, and on my way, I was driving past this billboard, and I think I've talked about this before, but it was it's the billboard it's like a scene from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the animated one that was super amazing, and on it, it's, the Peter Parker Spider-Man talking to the Miles Morales, and he's talking to him, and he says, you never know, let's see, what does it say? It says, everything you say and do has an impact. And so that was just a very bold reminder of what I should be doing here. And so I'm recording this episode. My work schedule's been changing, so I will be hopefully posting more consistently, at least once, maybe twice a week. And while I was driving and thinking about this, lately I have really been reaping the benefits of the business connections and personal connections that I have been making or have made. And so I think I was just going to talk about that for this, because I have my little brother in town for the summer, and because of the connections I have made and how I have fostered those relationships and conducted myself, he is going to be working and he's going in for an interview for one job and should be hearing back at the end of this week about working on film sets and stuff, the same as what I do sometimes, and so that's really fun, and it's really fun having him here. We went to Costco yesterday together, and so my little brother's almost 20, and going grocery shopping and doing all of this like adult stuff and thinking about budgeting for the next 2 weeks and what we're purchasing and how we're going to make it last, and all of that stuff was kind of a funny thing, because similar to the laundromat story, it was kind of like that, because we're walking through Costco and he's like, well, why don't we just get this, and we don't have to get everything that we're not going to eat together. And my point to him was, well, you got to think about it like this: we got to make this last, and if we don't have to get things that we're only you or only me are going to eat, but if we get things that we're both going to eat, that's just kind of a smarter way to do it, so we're not spending extra money on things that I'm only going to eat or you're going to only eat. And then, but yeah, it was just kind of funny. He's also gotten a lot more adventurous in his trying new foods and stuff, and this is the kid who his food could not touch when he was little. Now he's trying new stuff, and it's kind of fun for me, and having him here for this summer. And right now he's living with me, and then he'll live with my older brother for a little while as well. So it's all fun. I'm excited, and as far as my connections go, the business and personal connections go, I have in the last couple of years been having to change the way I operate and do certain things, and part of that is really being a man of my word and following through and making sure that if I say I'm going to do something, that I do it, and if I can't do it, making sure that is communicated clearly and being pretty straightforward about stuff, and having conversations in a way that my message gets across pretty clearly, but it is done in a way that isn't, inflammatory toward the situation. So whether that's there's lots of situations. It's just kind of a skill set to that you have to develop for yourself, because each person is going to do it differently. But there's some good baseline stuff like following up and showing up. Those are kind of the two biggest things, and they say that showing up is 90% of everything, so it's hard for me, I had this barbecue with some of my friends yesterday, and we're all friends, and we all are always late to stuff when we plan stuff because one of us, or well, at least one of us, falls asleep. And usually it's me, but this time it was two other people. So that was, it's not a big deal. And plus, I was cleaning up my room, and because I'm moving out soon, packing up, I got these vacuum sealed bags, which are freaking awesome. I put most of my clothes in those bags and organized them by, like, I've got all my winter coats and stuff in this in this bag, and I've got my dress shirts and jeans and other stuff in this one, and then the other stuff in the last bag, and I've got 3 more, but I cleared out a ton of space in my closet, which was super messy. And then it's just like getting organized is a good feeling, especially since I have another person living in my tiny apartment with me for right now. But the other thing is, on the subject of connections, I have this friend, and I told her that my little brother was going to be staying with me. This is a perfect example of that, having the personal connections. And she was like, well, I have this wine cooler. It needs to be fixed a little bit, but it should work for you. So we hadn't seen each other in like a couple weeks because she was out of town, and then I was out of town, and then finally we were both in town, and she's like, hey, I've got this mini fridge, or wine cooler, whatever. It's basically just a mini fridge, just not with the freezer, which is perfect because I don't need the freezer. She's like, I've been carrying this around in the back of my truck. And so she transferred it to me, and I spent, $10, and I fixed it, cleaned it out, and now I've got extra storage space since I share my main refrigerator with my roommate. So he and I went to Costco, got a bunch of stuff, and so, because of the relationship with that friend, she was just like, I don't really need it, and it's not getting used, and so here, you can have it. So if you can fix it, you can have it. There you go. Which is really nice because, a lot of people, it's interesting. The older I get, the more I value the friends that I really am like tight knit with, because a lot of people are flakes, and that's just you just kind of have to know that and expect that people will cancel last minute. And the nice thing about the friends that I have that I'm really close to, I can count them on one hand that will show up, and even if they're late, they will show up. My best friend, Will, is a perfect example of that, because, we will make plans and stuff when I'm back home, and he always makes sure that he, my youngest sister just graduated high school, and so he and his girlfriend drove out to come to that graduation, which was awesome because he's part of the family and everything, and he's going through. He just graduated from college, and is getting his certification for a specific type of financial management and stuff. I'm not exactly sure what all of that means, but I do know that when I need someone to help me with investments and taking care of all the stuff like that, financially speaking, that I've got someone I can call that can help me with that, which is really, really nice. And like, I've got my photography stuff that I've been doing, and he called me up the other day and was like, hey, I may be needing your services for this, and we talked a little bit about it, and I was like, perfect, yeah, we can definitely do that. So now he lives up in Utah right now, and I'm in Albuquerque, 8 hours away, but 8 hours in a car. I love driving, love road trips, and so that'd be super fun. And as far as the other like business connections that I've made, I was explaining it to my little brother because I told him that sometimes like getting on set is the hardest part, and then for me, once I'm on there, I'm really good about cultivating the relationships with people that I usually know, people that are already working on set, and so once I get on set, I can usually keep working on that set or another set pretty consistently because I try to be pretty professional, and I'm pretty good at segueing, going from like friendship back to business stuff and then go back to friendship stuff and then business stuff. And the people that say business isn't personal, they don't know what they're talking about, because every single business thing that I've dealt with, and yes, granted, I'm what am I, 23? Yeah, but I've had a fair bit of experience dealing with that stuff. Maybe not as much as other people, but probably more than some. So take it for what it is. And when I'm thinking about all this stuff from other people, I take everything with a grain of salt, and trust but verify, and know that things don't always go. Rarely, at least in my experience, rarely do they go according to plan. But the Pilates studio that I work at is a perfect example. It's not the moneymaker that I was told it was going to be, but I've made a ton of connections there with people that are clients, which are leading to other ventures and things. And I might be starting a business with one of the clients and working through my photography company stuff with another couple of them, and they're men and women of pretty good success. And so that portion, the connections that I've made, have been more important than anything. And so for me, the money isn't really the big draw there. It's the personal personal and business connections that are invaluable. And so I've kind of learned that the person-to-person connections, those are way more important than how much money you're making on a job, at least like at this point, because like for me, I think about stuff in the long term. So if you can hear my little brother, he's editing his stuff, and he's gets very excited and starts yelling. But that's okay, because I love him, and I'll smack him later. But the personal and business connections, those are what seem to be more important and in the long run. So thinking about things long term rather than how much money can I make in this moment, how much money can I make using building this relationship with this person. And I think that the people that are most successful that I've talked to, that are multimillionaires and higher than that, it's all about the connections and people they know and who they collaborate with to get things done. And there's obviously there's a trade-off, and how can I help you and how can you help me, that type of thing. And so learning how to do that better. And we've got some things in the works to start a couple different businesses. And it's interesting because I was on this plane going from Albuquerque back home, going through Sacramento Airport, and my connecting flight from Vegas to Sacramento, I met this guy on the plane, and he is an incredibly successful businessman. He has 9 kids, and I met a couple of them on the plane because he was traveling with them and his wife. And man, you can tell I can tell when someone is successful in business by the way they talk about it. And while I was home, my little sister, one of her best friends, her parents came over, and I was talking to them about some of the things that I was working with and considering. And it was interesting because the way they talk about business, I didn't even need to ask. I knew that they were fairly successful, and turns out they're very successful because they provide a service that is essential to certain business operations, and because they're really good at it and really efficient and trustworthy, and they do it well, that as a result they make a fair bit of money doing it. And that's the other thing that's kind of funny, because I was talking to somebody about college and school, and how they the big push right now is that school doesn't prepare you for life, which in my opinion is true, because they teach you to memorize and be an employee rather than thinking about things in a more productive and helpful way, because instead of memorizing and all of that, critical thinking is one of the things that all the people that I know that are incredibly successful do pretty well. And the other thing about that is that they tend to be pretty good at looking at potential of like outcome and the pros and cons of a situation, and sometimes they just go with their gut, but other times it's pretty analytical, but they do a fair bit of their own thinking about it, and instead of just giving you answers, they can talk about all the different scenarios. So and they tend to read a lot, and that's one of the things that I've been having to do in the last few days is reading about rules and regulations for setting up this certain business that I'm thinking about doing, and what all that entails, and putting together a business plan and talking to people. And one of my managers at the restaurant that I work with, he's starting to get in, or he is in the beginning stages of the same operation of the type of thing that I'm looking at doing. And so talking to him and the guys that he's doing this with is great information, and hopefully I'll do like an informational interview with them, and hopefully they'll be able to help me with doing like the investment side and business portfolio plan and the different phases of the operation that they are doing, and how I can incorporate that into my proposal and all of that. So that's super cool and really nice, because I am such a hard worker and I do things very well at the restaurant that this manager in particular I get along with really, really well. And he was really willing to talk to me about that, and hopefully he'll be willing to help me connect with those guys and see how I can do a similar thing for myself in a different capacity, but similar. And the other thing is I told you my little brother's here, and so I talked to the manager that hired me at the restaurant, because he and I are pretty close, and I asked him if it would be possible to get my little brother hired there, because I knew that there was an opening for a position, and he said that he'd be totally down, but I had to talk to the GM. So I went and talked to the GM a couple days later, and he didn't, it was really kind of a nice feeling for me, because I asked him if I'd be able to, if we could get my little brother a job, and he goes, "Yeah, he's not a serial killer or anything, is he?" Joking around. And I was like, "No, he's not. He's a good worker." And so he didn't even ask me any questions about him or anything. He was just like, "Yep, have him apply. We'll get him in." And I feel like that really spoke to the fact that because I handle myself a certain way at the restaurant and make sure that things are done correctly for my job and purposes, that he was willing to do that. And so it was really nice, because my little brother has an interview tomorrow with him, and an official one, and we went to this company picnic that was on Monday, and so he got to meet him and shake his hand, all that stuff, so that was good. And then got to meet some of the people that I work with, and so that was all good. And it's kind of fun, because I'm getting to be, like the big brother, and well, I mean, I am the big brother, but I get to foster all this stuff and see how it plays out. And it's really cool, because we did my little brother's best friend and him came through a few weeks ago, and they've been doing this project, and so I got to help them with filming some of it, and right now he's editing it, and this stuff is so freaking cool. And his editing capabilities are awesome, and so he and I have been working together with how we can improve the stuff for this, and so it's all exciting. That's all I have for today, because my timer's about to run out. So if you like this video and audio, follow me, subscribe, click the alert button, and we'll talk to you again soon. The other thing that I forgot before the video ends is that I'm going to be doing a video with my friend Kat. I did a little teaser video on YouTube, so y'all can go take a look at that. It was pretty funny, and we're figuring out what we're going to talk about together, but that'll be happening soon, hopefully this next week or two, and stay tuned.